All right. This is the Rutherford Magazine Show. Your host, Mike Sparks. Just waiting for my guests to get in the studio and get organized while they're on the phone, chit-chatting. Probably about nothing. How you doing? Herb Batson.
Mike Sparks.
Good to see you, man.
Been a while.
Jeremy Smithson, our faithful intern. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
Did you go to church today?
No, I was taking care of some stuff. We talked about this walking in.
Well, I missed too.
Yeah.
God forgive me.
Yep.
Yeah, my wife and I've been working on a fence. Man, God did not design me to be a carpenter.
Yeah, what have you been working on?
Been working on a fence, trying to build a gate. You know, if anybody's good at building fences, just text me at 525-3198. I finally just got my hinges right, and man, just trying to lay out framing it up, and then put my little dog ears on it.
Yeah, it's a science, pretty much.
You know, well,
I had to. Well, I didn't necessarily I measured out the using or whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I helped build a little pen at my folks' house 2 years ago, and
yeah.
So.
Well, we built the other fence ourselves, but I'm not good at building gates. I did one last year, but I'm building a double gate, and they get weighted. You know, over the years they'll start to sag. So I'm trying to put some brackets in there, and I put the little board that goes, through the middle to try to stabilize it. You ever built a fence gate?
But let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you? How wide is the gate?
4 feet.
4
each.
feet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's 8 foot long.
Yeah.
Why don't you buy you a metal gate, mount both sides, and then cut it, and then it won't sag on you.
Well, we thought about that. These brackets that I put in there, hopefully it strengthened enough where it won't sag. But my wife's not being a good carpenter apprentice. I told us that she gets frustrated working with me. We just weren't designed to work. We've married 34 years, but we can't work together.
Married 34. We just
34.
celebrated 48 years Friday.
Good for you. Friday, really.
48
Man, your
years.
wife's a saint for putting up with you.
Oh, what do you mean?
I mean, seriously.
God, I tell you what, God's blessed me with my wife.
Oh, amen.
Amen to that.
You got a good woman, brother. You got it all.
Hey, I need to mention this. A lot of people have asked us, Faith Sanders Marine, a big hoppy here, Roland Hopkins.
Yep.
He passed away back in July the 28th at 10:30.
So you hang out down there a lot at Faith Sanders?
Yeah. John's a real close friend of mine, and Roland and Ma's a real close friend of my wife and I.
Yeah.
And,
here's what I found.
I hung out a lot back in the day down there. I just bought me a bass boat a couple weeks ago. I haven't even taken it out yet.
I heard about that.
My friend Mark Carpenter hooked me up, so Mark's listening. He gave me a good deal, but I didn't really barter for it, but I made him what I said. I said, look, you give me a really good price, you can use it whenever you want to. I need to get out there. A friend of mine was telling about somebody that was out here recently and tore out the whole lower unit. I mean, the whole motor come off the boat.
Yeah. The water.
You seen that happen?
Yeah, the water level's falling. A lot of people that don't know Perseverance Lake will be running down the lake 50, 60 miles an hour and hit a brick wall that's a foot underwater, and it just ripped your motor off. But if you're going to bass fish, we need to hook you up with
Rusty?
No, either Rusty Rust or Little Hoppy at Faith Sanders. He's a pro fisherman, and let him give you some tips.
Rusty's been on the air with us many times. I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to go magnet fishing. Y'all ever done magnet fishing? Take a magnet, throw it off, pull it in, try to pick up stuff off the bottom. I lost a watch off Faith Sanders Bridge, jumping off the bridge when I was about 15. It was one of them diver's watches of all things, and it fell off when we were playing at the swing, and I thought, what's the odds of me finding that?
Well, we've got some divers, professional divers over at Faith Sanders Marina that can, you call them, they can hook you up. But if it's, how long ago was that, Mike? You were
oh my gosh, it's been, I'm 56, 15,
I'm gonna
41 years ago.
I'm going to say it's pretty well sunk down in the mud,
Yeah, but I think it would be neat. But tonight's show, we're going to talk about ghost stories and hauntings, and I've got a couple folks going to call in. I've got, let's see, I've got Edith Moore is supposed to call in, and my wife's cousin was supposed to come up with me, but he couldn't make it. Well, and I think he's going to call in here maybe till the mid part of the show. But being October, I thought it'd make a neat. We done this past 2 years to talk about ghost stories and all. But I've got is that Edith? Edith Moore, how you doing?
Just laying up here looking at who done what to who.
You down there in Memphis right now, ain't you?
Oh, yeah.
How's when I first met you over at Pastor Whedon's Ebenezer
Right.
Primitive Baptist Church back in
Right.
the day, and you and Diane Patterson was over there, and Dr. George Smith. You
Right.
had a good crowd.
Right.
Mary Watkins, Katie. What's Katie's last name?
Wilson.
Katie Wilson. She's sweet, and a lot of y'all were over there. And then Bo Washington, which sadly Bo's passed now.
Right.
Bo was an educator for 40
and
something years.
I got something weird to tell you about Bo tonight too.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to get you to. I wanted you to call in last week because I was kidding you one day about because you grew up over at the battlefield. And
sure did.
I was kidding you about if you ever seen a ghost, and you started telling me all kinds of stories. Are you going to tell that one about the headless woman?
Well, that is really based on facts.
Okay.
According to my aunt Cindy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
But that whole area, people used to see things and see shadows walking and moving around the area. And my grandfather always thought it was just the soldiers and stuff that hadn't, found their way home.
Yes.
But the story that I and several others over the years had seen was it was at the old Methodist church, like that's right down across from where we lived, and right before you get to Bo's house.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a rock fence.
Yeah, that would be near what a lot of people see is that log cabin, and that's a quarter mile up the road towards Smyrna, on the left after the battlefield, correct?
Right.
Across from your property that you're wanting to try to save, right before the gravel pit there, the gravel company.
Well, it's way before the gravel pit. If you're coming out of Murfreesboro.
Yep.
And you pass the battlefield and you pass the old Mr. Ed White store, you know where that is, right?
Where they sell the Civil War
right.
artifacts.
Yeah, that was our grocery store.
Really? I didn't know that.
That was Ed White's grocery store.
Mm.
Mr. Ed and Miss Jenny. No, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that was a grocery store. And if you keep coming from the grocery store, you got to the Jackson's place, but they sold that land to the park. Then you get to the Asbury Lane.
Yes, ma'am.
And then once you pass Asbury Lane, you get to the old log cabin that used to be the Dewdrop Inn, which used to be a honky-tonk back in the day.
Is that the Troubadour Club? Was that what it's called?
No, I think it was called the Dewdrop Inn.
Dewdrop Inn, okay. Did Casey Clark play over there?
Oh, no, they were way before his time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gosh, no. They turned it back into a house because that's where my family was living when my father died in 1956. They had turned it into a house. But when you pass there, you get to Mr. Dave Mason's storehouse. You can't hardly see it because of the bushes. That was a little black store where you could go and get, sundries and stuff like that. Well, that rock fence that's right behind Mr. Dave Mason's store that borders the land that separates his storehouse from the Methodist Church.
Okay.
That's the rock. The rock fence that goes up to Cemetery School.
Okay. That's where Bo lived. Back where Bo lived.
Back in the back where Bo lived, right? And quite a few other people. The Mentors lived up there, and the Washingtons. And my daddy used to live up there. He sold some of that land that Bo has to them before he married my mama. Anyway, that is the rock fence where, according to my great aunt Cindy, that back in the day during slavery times, it was a lady that had one of her servant women because her husband was messing with her, had her beheaded.
Yeah.
And that lady has haunted that area for centuries now. And that's who would come and you would see her. And she always had on, when I saw her, she had on gray. And I was a young girl going to that elementary school.
Gray, what do you
And
mean,
she was
gray? A gray?
Gray clothes.
Gray clothes?
Long, gray long, looked like a gray long dress, something that you would have worn back in the 1800s.
Oh, okay.
And she's a black lady, okay?
How do you know that?
And because I saw her head, she would be holding her head.
Oh, I thought her head was missing. So I'm like, okay, how do you know
No.
this? Okay.
No, she'd be holding.
Wow.
She'd be holding one hand around her neck.
And she had what around her neck?
One hand would be. She would be holding one hand around her neck, and the other hand would be holding her head.
Really?
And she'd never say it. Well, natural consenting, but she would never move, never motion. You just see her.
Wow.
And it'd be like she's trying to let people know that someone had cut her head off.
Wow.
Now, according to my great aunt Cindy Malone, who lived on the land where the where the people got the rock and gravel and stuff now.
Yes, ma'am.
Aunt Cindy said that the day, and Aunt Cindy was either born right at the end of slavery, right after. She always told us when we would tell her we saw this lady. And she would tell us that what she had been told, that when that lady had her head cut off, the whole area went dark.
Oh, really?
And when the light came back on, when the sun came back out, the woman who had the lady killed had also committed suicide. Now, I have never been able to verify that.
Yeah.
Other than what old people in that area that had been living on that land forever.
Yeah.
That's the story that they would tell. And several people would see her from time to time.
Did your dad ever see her?
No, but I did see my dad one time.
Oh, you seen your
after he
dad?
had passed.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That whole area, Mike, you know the Asbury Lane?
Yes, ma'am.
If you would go around the Asbury Lane down where Mr. Dave Mason's house used to be.
Okay.
It's an old shack, still live there, where the Mentors live. You know where the Mentors house is?
No, ma'am. I knew where Bo lived.
No, Bo didn't live on Asbury Lane. She lived behind the school.
Yes.
Okay. If you were to go down the Asbury Lane, you pass the Manson house, which would be on the left.
Okay.
When you got into the curve, Mr. Bud Manson. And then you got to the Mentors land on the right, and Mr. Dave Mason, which was their uncle. And then you would get to the Mosby's house on the left, which was a nice rock house.
Okay.
That area used to have a baby crying in it all the time.
Really?
Yeah, it was a hollow. You know, they've changed that road quite a bit from the time we were growing up, 70, 80 years ago.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
But people would hear babies crying up and down that section of the road.
Wow. I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else? Your sister witnessed that same occurrence with the woman off the Old Nashville Highway, right?
Yeah, several kids have witnessed that during that time.
Well, did y'all play on the battlefield? I mean, I know that whole area was the battlefield, but where the current stones, did y'all play over there a lot?
My grandfather would walk. See, I'm only third generation from slavery, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
My father's father was an enslaved person from Alabama that fought in the Battle of Murfreesboro. And so we know that land. And my father and my Aunt Cindy used to walk that whole land, and we would walk from where we lived all the way to Silver Springs, down by Smyrna. We could do that on the back roads. My grandfather taught us how to find water and food.
Really?
If we were ever lost in the woods, where to find hickory nuts. to look for certain weeds to tell where water would be growing and where water would be under the land. He knew that whole land because, like I said, he grew up there.
Yeah.
He was born in the 1800s.
But that's Mel Malone, your grandfather, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Edith, can you hold? Let's take a quick break. Can you stay with us for a while?
I can. Yep.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Most people know that their insurance can provide them with coverage for the many life's mishaps. But I can help you also unlock discounts, save money, and get benefits with Farmers Insurance Policy Perks. Whether we're discussing home or auto insurance, I am here to help you understand these great perks. Call me, Mark Lewis, at 615-625-7070 for a quote, and you can get a whole lot of something with Farmers Policy Perks.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Not available in every state. Only available at select Farmers branded policies underwritten by Farmers Truck or Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate.
Dr. Automotive Auto Repair and Maintenance Mechanic Shop Garage provides car owners in Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Laverne, and the Middle Tennessee area with excellent auto repair services. Deep-rooted experience in serving both foreign and domestic automobiles allows for proper diagnosis in a timely manner. Check them out online at autoropairsmyrna.com, call them at 615-220-0971, or stop on in at 1205 Hazelwood Drive in Smyrna.
Hey Rutherford County, it's Mark from the Safe House. And now the security riddle of the day. What do big box, fake safes, face masks, and Joe Biden have in common? They don't work, and they promise things that isn't true. So don't get a Joe Biden level of security. Come down to the Safe House and see what a real safe looks like. Unlike most of the other safe dealers in the area, we have safes in stock, ready for delivery. And at the Safe House, gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. So drop by the store or go to NashvilleSafehouse.com. That's NashvilleSafehouse.com.
AFFI is Middle Tennessee's premier choice for pest, wildlife, and moisture control. They specialize in those difficult and unique cases. You can reach them by phone at 615-300-2395. That's 615-300-2395. Or stop in at 200 Glenrose Lane in Smyrna.
My wife and I enjoy going by Yard Sale Inc. We usually go to both locations, the one in Smyrna as well as the one in Murfreesboro. A lot of times on Saturday mornings we stop by, and their inventory changes weekly, so you never know what you're going to see, and it's mostly open box. The name fits it. It's exactly that. It's a yard sale. If you don't totally agree with the price, the staff is always friendly and nice and willing to work with you.
That's the Yard Sale Store in Smyrna at 111 Enon Springs Road West, in Murfreesboro at 204 South Front Street, and online at bestdealintown.com.
All right, we're back. Rutherford Magazine Show. I'm your host, Mike Sparks. I'm talking paranormal, ghost stories, and got my friend Edith Moore, who grew up over there at the cemetery community, which is near Stones River Battlefield. Folks may not be familiar with cemetery community, but it's that whole area. Edith, won't you tell the listeners about cemetery community real quick?
The cemetery community was one of the first freedmen's communities in the state of Tennessee after the Civil War. It was founded primarily by the ex-military men that fought, black military men that fought in the 110th and 111th Colored Divisions of the Union Army.
USCT.
At the time that the war was won, they had acquired, cultivated over 85% of all the land that had once been plantations and where they had once been enslaved. Cemetery is distinguished by having one of the first schools built in cemeteries to educate the ex-slaves in agriculture. The name of that school was the Tennessee Manual Labor University, which eventually became the Cemetery Elementary School, which our family unit still own. It was built on my great-grandfather's land, Sanders Malone, and we've lived there ever since, and there's a reason why we still live on that land.
Yeah. Now, the old building that Bo Washington showed me a couple of years ago, that wasn't a Rosenwald school. That's the school you're talking about, right?
No, it was never a Rosenwald school. It was built in collaboration with some ministers out of Nashville and the people of Cemetery to build that school.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is why we still own the school. It was eventually came into the county usage, but after integration, we retained the building. Our principal at that time, Mr. Washington, Bo's daddy.
Yes.
And we kept the school, and the school is still intact. My 7th grade class was one of the last classes that was actually held in that school.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you were to walk in there 60-some years later, it still looks the same as if we had just walked out yesterday.
Yes, ma'am. Now, let me ask you, I mentioned Casey Clark. I happened to find Casey's CD in my desk the other day, just cleaning my office some. Now, you're not kin to Casey, though, are you?
We are. I have lost count because of how we are all kin, but to be honest with you, I'm pretty much kin to everybody in Murfreesboro.
Yes, ma'am. Now, you and Diane are Diane's your niece, right?
Diane's my niece, my brother's daughter.
Yeah. I hooked her up on some tickets for the fish fry. We kept missing each other though the other day. Yeah, you should have come up. Yeah, our Big Wings of Freedom fish fry. Well, as we wrap this story up, and is there any final words you want to share before we get into Herb Batson's Bell Witch experience?
No, but I wish that we would have find a paranormal society in Murfreesboro that would like to research a lot of what has happened, because it has been down in that area a lot of history.
Yes, ma'am.
About the paranormal.
Definitely.
And I think it was because of the stress and the magnitude of the suffering that people went through in war, that there are still people that have not crossed over.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And I would love to see that happen.
Well, the African American Heritage Society, if folks want to kind of get involved, I know Mary has been leading that, the late Dr. George Smith, who sadly passed away. Right. I know you're passionate about history and your forefathers' experiences. What worries me, because I've seen a lot of folks passing away, and all that history is lost when they go, whether it's Dr. George Smith, or whether it's Bo Washington, or whether it's Frank Caperton, and Ernie Johns, a former county historian. So the more we can bring awareness to it, and I know you're down there in Memphis, and also you told me to get a hold of John DeBerry. I will, but I'll I appreciate that story. Why don't you write this stuff down too?
Well, my sister Nora was doing that, but remember she passed, and
yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Accidentally, yeah, she passed, and accidentally, I think some of her daughters cleaning out her boxes.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of it, but I am pretty much the last one, and we are, and that's one reason why I really miss Frank, because he was getting more coverage about what happened in that area.
Yep.
Through his writers, and we will actually put it on Google.
Well, I know you've produced a documentary. If folks want to know more, you go to YouTube and search under Mel Malone.
To search under Mel Malone Family Foundation.
Yes, because I know you want to try to. I know you want to save that. I'm looking at the picture of your old home there, and I mean it. You said your grandfather did all that arch there out of stone, hand built that whole house by himself.
Right. He did. And what has happened, I'm still searching for an attorney. COVID hit.
Yes.
And we had quite a bit of illness going on. Still looking. We know that land is still ours. There was a deed that was written that had a transposed digit in
Yes.
it. But we have all the documentation. We have the information from the Census Bureau that says my granddad was on that land in 1910.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's never been a document say he ever
Yes.
sold it.
Well,
So we know that's there.
Well, you need to. I mean, I know we've wanted to try to help you at the state.
Well, help me find an attorney that will that I can talk to. I've called a couple.
Yeah.
One has retired. So if you know a land attorney that would like to be interested, we have all the documentation.
Yes.
Everything. We
Yes,
just need
ma'am.
someone
Well, the
that
easement.
can
If you look over
it
there,
out.
and what happened with you know, I had the Secretary of State in, and we did a little tour of that area.
Right.
They put the if folks want to know more about it, they put the easement through the middle of your house. I mean, this
Right.
would never
Right.
happen in my subdivision or anybody else, but it happened in your subdivision.
No.
I don't know why Scott Broden or Dan Eppright or Dave Gold with the Merciful Post or somebody would be all over this, because the rock wall is a natural boundary.
The rock wall is the boundary.
Yes, ma'am.
And like I said, in 1910, my grandfather was on that land debt-free.
Yes. Yeah, something's a
And
little
there's never been a
jacked
deed
up.
that he sold
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Something a little jacked up
It's
about
just
that.
a typo.
Well, it's
a
jacked up.
typo.
Yeah, it's jacked up.
Right.
Well, we're going to move on. Thank you, Edith. Next time you're in Smyrna, Merciful, call me. Let's grab some coffee, okay?
Oh, okay. And then I'll tell you about Bo, the weird thing with Bo, okay?
Oh, okay. I thought a lot about it. Thank you so much, Edith Moore. I appreciate it, okay?
All right. Thank
All right,
you.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my friend Edith Moore that grew up over there. It's kind of sad, you know, she's wanting to save this old home she grew up in, and most of us would not see historical significance through there. But where are you going to find a home built by an African American like 1910 by himself? You know, and it looks like if you leaned up against it, it's going to cave in.
Now that's the picture you showed me. That's on Old National
Across
Highway.
from a gravel pit. But what happened is she wants to save the old home place. I mean, it's, you know, I really feel bad for her. And if there's an attorney that wants to get involved, just contact me. But when they did the easement on the house, when they, you know, did the survey, they literally put the survey through the middle of the house. Something is just cattywampus is what my dad would say about it. But anyways, you can go to YouTube, type in Mel Malone, I think Foundation. You'll see the story. It's really interesting, you know. But I'm going to shift gears real quick. We're talking about the old battlefield, the cemetery community, right through that area. Well, I had an interesting email the other day. April Mullen Smith, she grew up with my wife. In fact, my wife's uncle has their old house off of Couchville Pike. But April had texted me the other day, and she couldn't come on the air, but she said I'm willing to share it. She's over there. I think she's off Asbury Lane, back in that area. But I was asking for a little, you know, strange stories and all. So she emailed me. I'm just going to share what she sent me. You can tell my story. And she said they've got a ghost in her house, and he was 26 when he died. He was a Confederate. She said his name was Albert. His family had a farm near that area, and he died during the battle. She said right there. She goes on to say he likes dogs, and it came out during the investigation. They had some paranormal people come over there and search or investigate the house and all. She said the ghost apparently didn't want to scare him. He only wanted to interact. She said he pushed a chair away at the kitchen while they were doing it. She said she's not scared. The guy leaves him alone. I guess her house had burned down, sadly, and they rebuilt. And she said she'd have to go by there, and she'd asked the framers, people doing the construction, if they ever heard anything strange, and they kind of looked at her kind of crazy. And then she said later they started admitting that they had some strange experiences later going on. In fact, I even kind of wrote a story about it in my TennesseeLedger.com newspaper. You could, it's one of the latest stories, TennesseeLedger.com, if you want to check it out. But, you know, Herb, you had, I guess, seen my post on Facebook and wanted to reach out. And you grew up, where is it you're from? Robertson County?
No, we grew up in, started out in East Nashville growing up.
Okay.
And then we moved to Rutherford County in 85.
Okay.
Excuse me. My mother married a man that had a big farm up in Adams, Tennessee.
Yeah, Adams, okay.
And a lot of people were, let's see, what would I call that? Well, actually, some people called this lady that would walk around the house, and we've seen her.
Yeah.
You know, they called her the Bell Witch, but to us, she wasn't like those people said she was. She wasn't scary. She wasn't.
Oh, okay.
She didn't threaten anybody. Actually, she stayed in the house because my stepfather worked nights.
Yeah.
And my mother stayed in that big old colonial home by herself, and Kate would just walk around the house.
Now, how far were y'all from the Bell Witch area?
This farm, the Bell Witch, the Bell Farm was across the highway. If you're coming into Springfield, it was to the right.
Okay.
But
so what makes you think this is the same entity, the same?
Well, because she was buried in the front yard of this plantation that we used to own.
Oh, okay.
And
how you know that?
Well, from history.
The headstone or something?
Yeah. It's got her name on the headstone.
So Kate was a real person.
Yeah, Kate was, and she was the most beautiful lady in the long gown dresses they wore, and just there you go. And I do know when she would come to the house and she would come up the sidewalk. My mother had a pair of Dobermans, and they would sit at the front door when my stepfather went to work at night.
Yep.
And them dogs, when she would come up, the dogs would turn to the left and right and just walk away.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And we have an organ. It's in my home now, but it was upstairs on this 2-story old home. And
so it's an old plantation home.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was a pump-up organ. And we would be downstairs eating after cutting tobacco or whatever we were doing in the fields, and the organ would start playing.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And
so you had to pump it up with against your foot or something.
Right. And then those were a few experiences that we experienced, but people say she's scary or something. Yeah. She wasn't. That's
well, I remember in high school, I think it was a radio DJ that went to stay in the cave. Was going to spend the night in the cave. I guess I don't know if they let you stay in the cave or something back then, or maybe he got some kind of permission, but he ended up getting scared and leaving. I think he said some rocks were being thrown at him.
Oh, heck!
Have you ever heard that?
No, but I can tell you this for a fact. Marty Luffman, one of our closest.
Yeah, I think Marty's going to call in tonight.
And Marty, if you call in, we need to talk about that gentleman that was at his gardener was doing something in his house, and I was over there. I've got a rod, Mike.
Yeah,
I told
you do the what's it called?
I can mark graves if it's an infant child,
divining rods or something
similar to that, and I can tell you if the person buried there is a man or woman, and if it's an infant child, whatever.
Well, how do you do that?
Well, the rod I have is balanced to my arm, and it's just a metal rod. And when I step up on coming across the grave, it'll turn to the left. And when I get on the grave, from the back of my feet until I cross the grave, and then it straightens out. But you measure from the back of my feet on both ends.
Oh, okay.
And then I can turn around, and if it's a man, it turns to the left, and if it's a lady, it turns to the right.
Really?
And I've got a video out.
What about an infant, a child?
Infant child. I've been asked to go to cemeteries to find where infant children were buried.
Yeah.
To find their graves and.
Well, this goes. Have you studied the history of the divining, whatever you call it, divining rods? I mean,
I have an old grave digger taught me how to do this. Now, 2 rods, you use it to find water lines and water, and then I can tell you if you've got a farm and there's water there, I can tell you how many feet it is.
How many feet? How many feet deep?
Well, yeah, how deep you would have to drill to get to it. And but the interesting thing about it was this one rod, and when I step up on a grave, it automatically will tell you the width, the length, And so if anybody has any family cemetery where you forget somebody didn't have a marker or something, contact Mike. He'll get in touch with me.
Who? Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
and you,
okay.
you can get in touch
I don't know
with
anything
me
about this stuff.
But I mean,
it's. I'm not doubting you. I've just never seen it happen.
I tell you what we can do. Make it easy for you.
Yep.
We can go over here, Murfreesboro Road to cemetery, and
when
anytime you
Not
want to go.
tonight.
Well, I mean, nighttime. I don't have the rod with me, but
Yeah.
I can pick it up at the house. You cover up the tombstone of any person you want, and I can walk across that grave and tell you if it's an infant child, a young child, 8 years old, or an adult, and then I can tell you who it is, if it's a man or woman. I
Yeah.
can't tell you who it is, but I can tell you if it's a man or woman.
Yeah.
And
have you talked to other? Do y'all collaborate? What do they call? What do y'all call dowsers or something?
something that when they run a gas line down Old Nashville Highway, you remember that?
Yeah.
Because I called you.
Yeah,
about
you
it.
called me. Okay.
They were
That's some
going
encroachment.
Yeah, they were going in and digging up close to the road. Well, first they started across the cemetery and we stopped it because they
Yeah.
got into graves. Then they wanted to come out to the sidewalk and see. Mike, way back then, Old Nashville Highway was real narrow.
Yes.
And they widened it, and when they widened it, they went over some old graves. Now,
Okay.
at these old cemeteries, children were buried in front of the grave of the cemetery. Children.
Oh, okay. They were at the front.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the front, and where that gas line is, I think we
You're
marked
talking about over in front of the VFW. Yeah.
VFW to the right a little bit. Where that new asphalt is,
Yeah.
from one point to another, there's 87 children buried through there. Now, we documented it and we filmed it, and you can actually see this rod turning left
Is
and
there
right.
a name for that cemetery?
I think it's Oliver Cemetery.
Oliver.
Yeah.
See, my father-in-law lives near the Sanders Cemetery off Weekly Lane, right there on the right. He keeps, and there's a black graveyard next door to it, and real proud of my father-in-law. He keeps it mowed, cleans it up.
Oh, you
over
talking
by
about-
Living Springs Baptist Church.
Okay, yeah, I passed it.
He keeps that clean. And I think Keith Bracter's going. Well, we need a load of dirt if anybody wants to. Just don't. He's trying to clean it up a little bit better.
I tell you
so
something,
looking
right-
for a couple loads of dirt.
Right down the road from him to the left is that guy that races cars.
Yeah, Andy Johnson.
Yeah, and he's got
Chase.
dirt, so he can probably make that happen.
Yeah, he keeps that area clean. If it is interesting though, but I do believe that there is spirits, things that can happen. I have personally never seen anything in my life. Jeremy shared the story a couple times on the air when he was working the golf course. This was just recently. You had something happen.
This was like 2 years ago.
2 years. Mm-hmm.
So
Back behind Sam Davis' home.
Oh, behind Sam Davis. Oh, it's
on the golf course.
Yeah.
Smyrna?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell the story.
I want to hear it. Go ahead.
So, Mike's listeners have heard this probably countless times from me over the past couple weeks. So this is like 2021, 22, or 2020, 21, or whatever. It was a very unusually foggy day in the middle of summer for some reason. I don't know why, but golf course maintenance gets to the course pretty early in the summer. We get there at 5:30. It's usually pretty dark when we get there. Sometimes in the late summer it's a little lighter, but this one particular day was pretty foggy. I guess a rain had just rolled in, and it was left over from it. But anyway, my first task that morning was to mow fairways. So I had to go mow fairways on the back nine. So I get back there, and on hole 11, and I'll just recap any of Mike's listeners, if they play at Smyrna Golf Course, they know what hole 11 looks like. It dog legs to the left, around, and right in the crook of that dog leg there is a grave site, closed in by a wrought iron fence. The fence the tree has actually grown around the wrought iron fence, so it's deformed and all that. Inside that grave is a grave of a Mr. Wiley Sanders, his two wives, and then there's 3 little grave markers about that big.
Oh, really?
From end to end.
A little bit. You're talking about 4 inches wide or something.
Yeah, well, probably
little
like
markers.
You're
talking about like
this
boundary
big.
markers?
No, they're grave sites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about maybe even as long as this power strip that's in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm talking from another golfer. He said that that's actually 3 graves of Mr. Sanders' kids.
Well, I tell you what you
Oh, is
do.
it?
Hook up with me, and we'll go over there. You show me, and I can tell you if it's boys or girls buried there. Oh, that's pretty.
They marked now?
I do not know. But anyway, back to the thing.
Yeah, when you're mowing.
Yep.
And
So
you
I'm
see
mowing, and I come up to that dog leg, and I see somebody or something standing outside of that fence and looking into the gravesite. And so I'm thinking, it's like 5-ish, 5:30, 5:40-ish in the morning. Yeah. Nobody's supposed to be back here. It's only supposed to be me back here. This is odd. So, I power down my mower, get off. I'm about to go tell this person, hey, you can't be back here. I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
Yeah.
And right as soon as I get close enough to, which is in like vocal range, this figure disappears.
Well,
yeah, that's wild. And it's right. How far from Sam Davis' home?
It's literally like a stone's throw away from Sam Davis' home.
Yeah.
I can stand at our burn pile that we use to like burn refuse and dead trees and whatnot, and I can see the back of the Sam Davis barn.
Okay.
And the home. So.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to look at the old De Beers map to see where the property line was, because my understanding Sam Davis' home was like 1,000 acres back in the late 18 or around 18 before the Civil War, I guess.
Yeah.
So and then there's Gooch land that was where the airport is now.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see the because that Sanders, and then the Sanders Cemetery out by my father-in-law. And then there was Weekly Lane. It was Colonel Weekly. Marty knows more about Colonel Weekly than I do, but that owned that whole area right in there. So a lot of history throughout right there. But that's pretty wild. Did you ever tell Hal Laughlin that story?
No.
You didn't tell Hal that story?
That's just a thing that I keep to myself. I mean,
well, you just told it to all these listeners.
Yeah, but at the time I was like, no one's going to believe this. I'll just keep this to myself.
That that is pretty wild. That you had that experience. I've never seen anything like that. Now I've got a family member that probably won't me mention it, but he's seen something in our house one time. We live behind the old Sam Davis, the house that Sam Davis' father, Charles Davis, copied the design is the Beatty home right there on Ross Drive, not right behind the fire hall. So I live right behind it. So I've never seen anything, but he had seen something as a kid. He just said he woke up and seen a man standing over him, in like a suit or something. He was probably 6.
Well, Marty Luffman has.
Oh, he's seen a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think Marty's going to call in here, in a little bit. I don't got a call yet. Yeah, we did the show from Sam Davis' home. Well, the other show I do with Brian Barrett and Roger Thomas. Had heard a woman whisper his name, and what was wild is another person that works at Sam Davis' home heard the same whisper to Roger. Thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah.
I think we've got a caller. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Mike Sparks, how you doing?
How you doing? Good. What's going on?
I don't know a lot about ghosts, but I know that you got Mr. Herb there, Jim Johnson. Heard he likes waiting on him going to take his shirt off. He knows a lot about ghosts.
Who is that? Herb?
Jim Johnson.
Tim?
Herb.
Well, I'm trying to figure your voice out. I can't hardly make it out. Who is this?
This is Tony Campbell. How you doing,
Tony
Herb?
Campbell. I tell you what, folks, if you need anybody to call Tony Campbell Record Service, this man.
He'll hook you up.
He'll hook you up and take care of you.
Y'all guys are doing a good job. I just want to call in and say hello to you all.
So.
Well, Tony, you ever seen a ghost before?
I haven't, and I hope I never do.
Well,
okay.
Do you want to see one?
No, sir. I live in a log cabin, so I hope I don't see one.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling in, man.
Good talking to you, Tony.
Have a good one, guys. See y'all.
Hey, you calling in? Call in.
And I was waiting to hear from Marty Luffman.
I'll help you. Just call on in.
And I tell you what, Marty and I have done a few things together, and we were close to his house. It was a few years back, and there was a bunch of entertainers come in to sing, and before they got
at his home, at his house where he's at now.
At his house. It was friends of his doing something, and
Yep.
I went out there to some graves, and he said that there was people standing beside me. I couldn't see them, but one side was hot, and then this side was cold.
Yeah.
And
you mean the temperature?
No, the Marty said the people was beside me, and I couldn't.
Oh wow.
And
okay.
And anyway, Marty can tell you about it. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay. The caller, go ahead. Caller, go ahead.
Hello.
Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
You talking about ghost stories?
Yes, sir.
What
You
y'all
got
talking
one for
about
us?
now? Man, I tell you what, I was working nights one night. Got off work out at Nissan. Came home. I took me a nap. I was in the bed asleep. I woke up over. I have a house over in Bentry. Over close to the Sam Davis home.
Yep.
And I woke up about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was a soldier standing at the top of the stairs there. He was decked out in his gray Confederate uniform. And I blinked a couple of times to get my bearings together, and he was gone.
Had you been smoking anything the night before, sir?
No, there was no smoking or drinking involved in it.
All right, this is my wife's cousin, Keith Smith. I was kidding Keith if he'd seen a ghost. He was like, and I forgot you had seen a ghost over in Bent Tree.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I don't get in trouble because I put on Facebook, is Bent Tree haunted? So hopefully no little kids hear about it and get scared and people call me mad about it. But did you see it happen? Was it twice, Keith, or just once?
No, it was just one time, and just once. And I didn't realize if it was. I didn't know if it was my wife's grandfather or if it was a Confederate soldier. And I talked to you about that the other day.
Yeah.
And I kind of put two and two together later on, thinking about the Sam Davis.
Yeah, because that's
directly across the field from.
I mean, literally, your backyard would be the closest to Sam Davis' home, and that marker that Jeremy is talking about where he's seen a man, I mean, that would be behind Jenny Williams where she grew up there, where Candy lives, right behind that. If you walked out of your old backyard, you'd go straight over to the barn.
Yes.
That's the only time you ever see anything, correct?
That was it. That was the only time.
Yeah.
But it was pretty plain as day there.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that story about the time you're making fun of me for helping the homeless guy?
Lord, geez, I don't remember which time.
You don't remember that?
Was helping a homeless
the guy where we were helping that girl that the car broke down in Nashville. I was like 35 and you're 21. You're like, man, you can't do nothing to help these bums. Remember that?
I don't.
You don't remember?
I mean,
you don't remember?
There's been so many times where you've helped someone that I really can't remember.
Remember, you were like, you can't do anything to help these people. Remember, I said it comes back to you, and then I broke down and that I was delivering that Mercedes to Atlanta, that little 66 Mercedes.
I remember you breaking down and going to Atlanta.
Because remember,
I can't remember right offhand.
I took
who that was.
All right, because the guy wouldn't take any money that stopped to help me in Atlanta, and I took a $10 bill and I hid it in his console. Remember, because I opened up the mail and I had my buddy Dan Miller of 48days.com, Dave Ramsey's best friend.
You doing this.
And I handed you my mail at the post office. You don't remember that? Because Dan was speaking at Rotary, and I said, here,
I do.
open this letter.
I remember that.
And you opened up the letter. Remember what you seen?
I can't remember.
You seen that $10 bill.
And they mailed it back.
Yeah, and remember, because you were making fun of me for helping the guy.
Yeah.
And I said, man, it comes back around. And I said, here, open my mail. What's the odds of me having you open up the letter? And you seen that letter. You seen that $10 bill, and you see the potent. I said, nice try, Mike. You're like, man, this is crazy. I mean, the probability of all that playing out, and the probability of me handing you a letter, which I've never done in my life, and all of a sudden you open it up and you see the $10 bill, and you were the one not really making fun of me, but you and that girl were like, "Oh, you can't do anything to help these people."
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Are you still as cold-hearted as you used to be?
Do what now?
Are you still as cold-hearted as you used to be?
No, I've
Okay.
been softened up in my old age.
Well, you got how many kids now? Like 6?
No, just 4 that we know of.
Yeah, that you know of. We got to be careful on that one. Hey, that happened to well, somebody I know. He did that DNA test, and all of a sudden he had a child out there. So, moral of the story is, don't go do that DNA.
We're not going to do that.
Don't do that kind of stuff, you know. Well, thanks, Keith, for calling in, man, and telling that story. Okay. All right. Thank you, brother. Yeah, that you've heard me share that story about the Mercedes. Yeah. Something when I went to deliver the car to Atlanta, it was a little 66, beautiful little convertible SL, and something told me to throw a gas can in the back of my truck, and then I ran out of gas, diesel fuel. And the gauge said I had fuel, but apparently I ran out, and a guy just stopped, and I just had a sense of peace walking down the interstate, and the guy pulled up, young guy, man, at like 25, 23, and helped me, and he sent me the money back, because I was telling Keith that it comes back around. We got another caller. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, this is Marty.
Hey, man, we're talking about you. How you doing?
Marty, were your ears burning? I was talking about you.
Well, that's the reason I called up there to defend myself.
Uh-oh.
So what's going on? You shared last week about that ghost you seen at Sam Davis' home, and what's this thing Herb's talking about?
Yeah, you remember the Beverly that had that group together, and we went over there, and I was telling Mike that I did something to the grave, and you said there was somebody to my left and to my right. One side was hot, and the other side was cold. Well, do you remember that?
Right. Oh, yeah, very well. Very well. That was a real haunted house we went to.
So,
where was that at?
It's over across the road from me, Mike. It's off Old Hickory Boulevard. It's
okay.
a log cabin. It was built in 1830.
Oh, yeah. Well, that area where you're at, you say you sense a lot of things happening in the ranch that you have.
Well, the Comcast guy that comes and services my wireless,
yep,
he told me this is the most haunted area in Nashville, the Cane Ridge community.
Really?
Yeah, he told me that. He said he is always having to fix things that are over-energized, overcharged, or something like that. And he said it's through the paranormal activity out here.
Is it?
Yeah. Hey, Marty, you remember the time I was doing something over at your house, and your caretaker, the guy working over there, said he saw somebody standing beside me, and he left, and I called to tell you about it. Of course, I didn't see him, but he did.
Right. No, the caretaker saw an entity standing beside you out in the yard.
Yeah,
over
but
where the graveyard is.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
He saw an entity standing beside you, but he never would come back.
I don't know. I don't know why. I was wondering why he was running away. I thought maybe I offended him or something.
What happened now? Say again. What happened to the guy?
I went over to Marty's to work around his cemetery to see what I could find.
Okay.
And he had somebody over there cutting grass and working around.
Okay.
And then I did something, and he hollered at me, and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "What?" He says, "Who's that standing beside you?" Of course, I didn't see anybody standing beside me, and then he took off running, and I called Marty and told him his yard man left. Marty just said he never came back, so I don't know.
Oh, really?
So,
yeah.
Yeah, he saw an entity standing beside Herb in the yard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I didn't get the whole story from him, but apparently while he was standing beside Herb, he kind of disappeared.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so the yard man saw him, and he just packed up and left.
He packed up.
Come back.
He didn't come back. I thought, well,
really,
I must have offended this guy. If what Marty's talking about on that previous thing at that old log house, if they're standing beside me, I can't see them. But if you're looking at me, you can see them. But
well, don't you think it's just certain people? Like, I've never seen anything.
Well, Marty not gonna work on you.
Okay.
But the thing about it is, it'd be like you're standing in a freezer on one side of you.
Oh, okay.
Real cold, and then the other side of you, for somebody there, it might be real hot.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. People see, like my wife called in last week, and I asked her to call in. She's seen her grandfather, but she didn't realize she woke up late. Well, she went to bed early as a little girl, and said she looked up and seen her grandfather sitting in a chair in her room, just looking at her, and then she was like, "What's he doing sitting here?" And then all of a sudden, she said he put his arm towards her, and then he disappeared. So she got up to go tell her mom, and that's when they got the news he died. So I thought that was pretty interesting, Like I said, I haven't never seen anything.
Marty and I work on you.
Well,
Marty,
I shared that story, Marty, about that dog we had that died, and I literally heard a dog walking down the hall. That's probably the closest thing I've ever seen to happen. But
Mike, like the worst one I've ever seen or experienced. I was doing that tour of homes in East Nashville.
Yep.
And the homes go back, like to 1910, 20, and stuff like that. And we were in the house, and the tour guide was taking us back through the home, and I started getting nauseous. It was really bad. I'm telling you, it was bad.
Yep.
And we got to the back screen porch, and I had to get out of the house. I went out front. And I just stayed out there breathing fresh air over the rail, and this girl was doing the same thing. She was, she had to heave. She was trying to throw up.
Oh.
When she got her composure and I got mine, we were talking, and she said, "Did you smell that?" And I said, "Yeah, I smelled it. It was awful." I said, "That was just like pure blood we were smelling."
Oh.
She said it was horrible.
Yeah.
Well, everybody left, and so she and I hung around. We talked to the owner of the home and told her what happened, what we'd experienced and everything. She said, "Yeah, the back porch where we ended up," she said, the man that lived here with his wife, he had 7 children, and him and his wife, and he took a machete and killed each one of them on the back porch.
Oh wow!
Oh gosh!
Wow. Well, in our final minutes, Marty, didn't you? Now you worked at Cordell Hall building, right?
Oh yeah, that place is haunted too, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I was going to share. I think I've shared it with you. One day we were in a caucus meeting, and way over to the left, I think there was some books stacked up, and the books just fell over, and everybody kind of looked over there. I mean, it was a group of about 60 or 70 lawmakers, and somebody said, "Well, like, okay, the books just tipped over by themselves." And you look at them like, I don't know how the books tipped over, but that was interesting. And you sit on the top floor. What did they do with was it the top floor at the Cordell Hall?
No, it wasn't the top floor, Mike. It was up there close to the top, but it was the morgue, the city morgue.
The morgue.
Yeah, that's where they kept the bodies that were either going to be cut open and examined or.
Oh wow!
Wow!
But on the floor I'm on the 5th, But I had never heard that. But that building, as old as it is, there's got to be something there. Well, Marty, what's your theory? You think this is
haunted?
What's that?
The state capitol is haunted.
Yeah, I've never seen anything. I'm sure it could be. I mean, you'd think it would be as old as it is. I remember. I remember asking Governor Haslam. I was sitting with him one day about underground tunnels, and he said, "Well, there is a little area back in here," and he said he had never went to it, but we always heard those rumors, just like the square up here. Well, Marty, thanks for calling in. Thank you, Jeremy Smithson. Thank you, Jackson, our producer. And thank you, Herb Batts. And folks, we'll catch you next week for more of the Rutherford Maxim Show.